Hi there, and welcome to Belfast High School History on YouTube. This little video is going to look at the causes of the Vietnam War, one of the key wars of the 20th century, and certainly a key war in the Cold War. So let's have a look and see what this is all about. First of all, you can see where Vietnam is and how strategic it is. It has China to its north. It is surrounded by countries like Laos and Cambodia. It's very close to important US strategic friendly countries like South Korea. You have the Philippines, you have Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, and Thailand. So, highly important, highly useful country that America does not want to lose. And you can see that has very important communist neighbours that it wants to keep them occupied and keep them contained. So, why did the United States then get involved? Well, the United States found itself getting more and more and more involved in Vietnam throughout the decades from the 1950s onward. And this is due to a number of reasons. First reason is Vietnamese independence. If we have a look at the background of Vietnam itself, we'll be able to see what happens. Because Vietnam used to be part of the French Empire, it's part of its Indo-Chinese Empire prior to World War II. During World War II, though, just like Korea, it's actually taken over by the Japanese. The Japanese face a local resistance force called the Viet Minh, and the Viet Minh are determined to oust the Japanese. They're also determined to keep the French out. And they're led by Ho Chi Minh. And Ho Chi Minh wants independence, complete independence for Vietnam. So after World War II, there is a return of the French colonial rulers, and this sets things up for a fight because the Viet Minh have not fought against the Japanese to only have their French colonial rulers return to take over their independent country. So they're determined to fight against the French to keep them out of the country and to get independence. And they have the support, the French have the support of the Americans, because the Americans, they're highly anti-imperialist, but they do decide to support the French in maintaining this part of the empire solely because of the policy of containment. That's the policy, you remember, of trying to stop the spread of communism. Ho Chi Minh and the Viet Minh, just remember they are a communist force, and the United States do not want communism to spread all over Vietnam. Well, they are shocked because the Viet Minh, led by Ho Chi Minh, they managed to pull off a spectacular victory at Dien Bien Phu, and they beat the French in a decisive battle, despite all the US financial support that the French were getting. So in 1954, this decisive victory makes things difficult for the Americans. So as a result of this, the French are defeated, obviously. As a result of that defeat, the Geneva Agreement is signed, and that decides to partition Vietnam along the 17th parallel. It's important you don't get mixed up with Korea, which is the 30th parallel. It's the 17th parallel in Vietnam. In the north, it is ruled by a communist dictator. Ho Chi Minh has ruled as a dictatorship. In the south, you do, again, just like South Korea, you don't have a democracy. You have a capitalist United States-backed government led by Diem, and Diem is going to be their person, their man in South Vietnam. So Ho Chi Minh makes no secret of the fact that he wants to unite all of Vietnam. He's not prepared to have the country permanently partitioned. So the second cause of the Vietnam War and American involvement is all to do with containment and the domino theory. So following the Second World War, as you probably remember, hopefully remember, the United States under President Truman found itself committed to this policy of containment. This is preventing the spread of communism around the world. So it's not actively going into communist countries to turn them capitalist and democratic. It's to stop countries from becoming communist and to contain the communist threat. What the United States are really worried about is this idea of a domino theory, that one country after another might fall to communism. So it could be South Korea, it could be South Vietnam, but if one of those falls, it could lead to the likes of Japan, the Philippines, Laos, Cambodia, all the way down throughout Southeast Asia, becoming communist. China had shocked the West in 1949 by becoming a communist power, and the US did not want to repeat. So the US therefore gave its support to South Vietnam and its leader Diem. They believed China and the USSR were behind lots of attempts to try to undermine South Vietnam and unify the country. The third cause is a short one, but it's important. It's economics. Vietnam contains tungsten, contains tin, contains rubber, and these are thought to be, vital economic resources for the United States in terms of the Cold War. So they're actively trying to pursue those. The fourth cause is this idea of civil war and the Viet Cong. Okay, so the United States became increasingly involved because of this National Liberation Front, the NLF, okay, which was nicknamed the Viet Cong by Diem. These were guerrilla fighters in the South who were using violent tactics to undermine the southern state and try to reunite it with Vietnam. Of course, it's backed up by communist money and supplies from the North, but they are actively trying to undermine the southern state. Ho Chi Minh, remember, he wants to reunite all of Vietnam. He knew many people in South Vietnam actually agreed with him. The leader of South Vietnam, Diem, here was deeply unpopular there. He was a Catholic in a Buddhist country. His policies often appeared to be corrupt, anti-Buddhist, and they caused unrest on the streets, including some Buddhist monks very famously setting fire to themselves to protest against Diem's cruel policies. So from 1958 onwards, the South Vietnam came under sustained attack from the Viet Cong. This led to more US financial and military support from presidents like Eisenhower and then on to Kennedy. Kennedy himself, he actually introduced 16,000 military advisors into Vietnam. And military advisors is just a code term for American soldiers. So by 1963, 16,000 had been introduced to the country. It also led to unpopular policies such as strategic hamlets. This is basically moving the population to really heavily defended positions, which the locals had to build themselves. And they didn't like this lifestyle at all, and very harsh towards it. They really didn't want to be forced into living like this, as you might expect. So in 1963, there was a huge shock because Diem was actually assassinated in a CIA American coup. Okay, so the Americans actually managed to assassinate them. Why would they do that? He is surely their man in the South. Well, they actually know how unpopular he is, especially the Buddhist population, and they hoped that getting rid of him and a lot of his corrupt friends would help to get a new leader, which would be able to stabilize South Vietnam and make it much more powerful and much more willing to actually beat off the Viet Cong challenge. And the fifth and final cause is the Gulf of Tonkin incident. Okay, this is 1964. Very controversial. Okay, so it's a pivotal incident in the Vietnam War. It allows President Johnson to increase US military presence hugely in Vietnam. On the 2nd of August 1964, the USS Maddox, a destroyer, was reportedly attacked by North Vietnamese forces in the Gulf of Tonkin. You can see the Gulf of Tonkin here. It's reported that a second attack actually happened 2 days later. That was never verified. The weather was really bad, and this always remains in dispute. However, Johnson's going to use this as a way of actually increasing his powers enormously. So the attack encourages him to act. He used the anger over the incident to win support from the US Congress to dramatically escalate the war in a bid to win it once and for all. And what he manages to do is get the Gulf of Tonkin resolution passed. This gives the United States president huge powers to wage war however he sees fit. And by 1968, over 500,000 US troops were in Vietnam, and the war was costing enormously, over $70 billion every single year. So hopefully these causes of the Vietnam War help in your understanding of the conflict. Many thanks for watching.